With us now is Gary Godsey, the Executive Director for the Association of Texas Professional Educators. Good to see you, and let's get your first impression on the Comptroller's estimate. Lieutenant Governor-elect Patrick was here on the show saying tax relief needs to be the first priority. Can we do that and adequately fund education?
Well, I think we have to look at the priorities, of course, that the legislature will tackle this time. And I've heard all the candidates and now the actual people who are in office saying that education was a top priority. So I think we have to make those kind of choices, hard choices. Education is definitely one of those things that needs to get the attention. Perhaps we can do a little bit of both and have some of the tax relief, but at the same time address some of the educational issues that are clearly out there for the state of Texas.
Of course, the school finance case on appeal is looming out there. What would you hope the legislature does? I mean, do you feel like something has to be done this session? You can't wait until that case is settled?
Well, I think because of the nature of the funding that's happened over the last 2 cycles in the legislature, that something needs to be done. So I hope that we could at least expect a step forward in some way in the session this time. We may not be able to tackle the whole thing, and certainly there is a court case that still has to be decided there to the Supreme Court.
Right.
And however that turns out, clearly education is something that needs to be addressed in terms of funding. We believe, and I think every teacher group in Texas believes, that your zip code shouldn't determine the kind of education you get. And the inequities in funding have clearly been addressed in this lawsuit as not being equitable in the state of Texas.
I know a lot of lawmakers on the subject of not letting your zip code dictate where you go to school. They tout school choice, voucher plans, bills, whatever you want to call them, are out there. Is there any type of a voucher plan that you feel is acceptable?
Not for us at this point, and here's why. Because I think it gets a little bit mixed up in terminology. The voucher plan that I've heard about and seen, and those that have been pre-filed, are around taking public tax dollars and spending them on private schools. We just don't think that's acceptable, and here's why. Who's going to be accountable? Who's going to show us results when it goes to a private school? And thirdly, it costs a whole lot more than Texas is spending per pupil now, I believe, and we believe, and this data shows, to send a child to public school, to private school.
So you just don't think that the money that would follow the child, even if a certain percentage stayed in the school, would be enough to cover a private school tuition?
Well, we just don't think that you should be spending public tax dollars on private entities. That's the bottom line for us. And we think that public schools do a pretty doggone good job of educating the kids in Texas, and have proven that. The amount of resources we're investing in Texas public school children still ranks about 47th in the entire nation. So a bump up, a little more resources in that area, and clear direction on what's expected of the Texas public school system, I think will help that system overall. School choice is often mixed up with the voucher in the same breath. Texas has a good bit of school choice already. If you're in public schools in virtually every place in Texas, within that district, you can generally send your child where you want to. So it's a matter of really understanding what's already out there in terms of choice, and not taking those public tax dollars and investing in private entities. That's the real rub for us.
We've got about a minute left, so I want to give you an opportunity to talk about anything else that is a priority for your organization this session, with a lot of new faces in the leadership role.
Sure. We'd like to see the issue of health care for TRS employees, both retired and current, be addressed. They've gotten so far behind the curve on what the state is putting in for health care now. And as you know, health care costs have gone up. We hope that there will be some attention paid to that in the school, in the session this time. And the other thing is, we hope that we'll continue to pay attention to investing in quality teacher preparation programs. We'd like to see the bar raised a little bit on the GPA for teachers and those people training to be teachers, because we want it to be a profession that people aspire to get into, and not get out of.
And it sounds like there is going to be some common ground there with some of the leadership. Thanks very much, Gary Godsey, of course, with the ATPE. Always good to see you.
Thank you.
And we're back to look ahead to tomorrow when we come back.